Finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I personally thought you were very good in Mamma Mia.
The 2008 film Mamma Mia is one of the most successful movie musicals ever made. It inspired the sequel, a book of academic essays, themed cruises around Greece, and nearly 20 years after its initial release, people are still weeping through the slipping through my fingers scene in packed cinemas, myself included. But I noticed that when people talk to me about Mamma Mia, they almost always start with some sort of a disclaimer. They tell me that they know it's a bit of a cultural joke and it's overtly sentimental and shamelessly silly, that the plot makes almost no sense, but they still love it. So in this video, instead of asking whether Mamma Mia is a good film or not, I wanted to ask, why did a film about female friendship, motherhood, aging, joy, and community became something so many of us feel guilty for loving? If you've somehow managed to avoid Mamma Mia for the last 18 years, may I ask how? But here's a small plot summary for you. Sophie is a 20-year-old bride-to-be living on a fictional Greek island, Kalokari, where she was raised by her single mother, Donna. She never knew who her father was and feels like a part of her is missing. After reading her mother's old diary, she decides to secretly invite 3 men who might be her father: Sam, an American architect, Harry, an English banker, and Bill, a Swedish travel writer, hoping that her father will walk her down the aisle on her wedding day. Simple enough. And of course, because this is a jukebox musical, everything is told through Abba's greatest hits, which were retrofitted into the plot. The reality is heightened, we're not concerning ourselves with realism. And so, for the first couple of minutes, the film fools you into thinking the paternity mystery is the plot, and it makes you really invested in it. What about Sophie? Is she going to figure it out before her wedding? What if she doesn't and the wedding gets cancelled? But the thing is, Mamma Mia means my mom in Italian, and because of that I always wondered why the story is set in Greece, not in Italy, but that's beside the point. The point is that the film, as the title suggests, is more interested in Donna than in its men, and it only uses Sophie's quest to find her father as a plot device for Donna to reunite with the people who shaped her life. Cue Tanya and Rosie. Actually, let me fangirl for a second. I think that my favorite song in the entire film is Money, 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 where Meryl Streep does this iconic Titanic pose in this enormous ball gown, while Christine Baranski and Julie Walters sing from jet skis, but the jet skis aren't even in the water, they're just parked on a yacht. It's completely ridiculous. It brings me so much joy every time I watch it. Also, is that Phoebe Waller-Bridge? I mean, I know it isn't because she isn't credited in the film, but it is her. No? For a 2008 film, decentering men was pretty bold, I think, though not accidental. Mamma Mia is based on Katherine Johnson's hugely successful stage musical that premiered in 1999 on the West End and in 2001 on Broadway. It was produced by Judy Kramer and directed by Phillida Lloyd, all of whom returned for the 2008 film adaptation. So this was always a story conceived and brought to the screen by women, and I think that perspective absolutely shaped what the film chooses to care about. This doesn't automatically mean we're in a femcel kind of a story either. No, men are there and they have character arcs and they're very charming and kind and good looking, but they only orbit the story, they are never the center of it. Think about it. Up until this point, I haven't even mentioned Sophie's fiancé because he barely exists in the film. I genuinely think more people remember Meryl Streep's mid-air splits than what Dominic Cooper's character is called. It's Kai, by the way, and yes, I had to look that up. But I think more powerful than simply giving the men less screen time is, spoiler alert, I guess, that the film ultimately decides Sophie doesn't need to find her father at all. She begins the story believing that knowing him will somehow complete her, only to realize that there was never a missing piece waiting to be filled and that she already had a family. She already had Donna. Oh, I genuinely cannot watch this scene without sobbing like a baby, and what's even more beautiful about it is that it comes shortly after Sophie and Donna have had a huge fight, but then on the morning of her wedding, she asks Donna to help her get ready. And it's such a simple scene, but I don't think I've ever seen a film capture this particular feeling between a mother and daughter quite like this, because Donna isn't only sad that Sophie is leaving, she's suddenly looking at this adult woman and remembering the little girl she used to take to school and all those completely mundane moments of motherhood that didn't seem important while they were happening. No, but genuinely, every time I watch it, I have to pause the scene and immediately call my mom. In her TED Talk, theater director Jude Kelly once asked, "Why do we think that stories by men are deemed to be of universal importance and stories by women are thought to be merely about women?" And I think that question is particularly interesting in the case of Mamma Mia, because this is a film that so deliberately refuses to treat its women as secondary to the men around them. And following that logic, the film's media's reception starts to make a lot more sense. As I was preparing this video, I spent an unhealthy amount of time reading negative reviews of Mamma Mia from prestigious publications to personal blog posts, because I guess I like to fry my brain, but also I really wanted to understand why one of the top 10 highest grossing films of 2008 has a 54% score on Rotten Tomatoes, which generally means the majority of film critics found it not that great. But why? Firstly, some critics, some not all of them, openly state that they don't take ABBA's music seriously, they find it in bad taste and therefore the film is shit. Rex Reed for Observer quote, "To me, the popularity of the jukebox bladder of this gang of no talents, meaning ABBA, is only slightly less understandable than the war in Iraq." No comment. Now, I'm not saying that you can only review this movie if you have an ABBA shrine in your closet, but if you've already decided that this type of music is beneath you before the opening credits even roll, I'm suspecting you're not approaching this film with much curiosity either, right? The second complaint is a general annoyance that movie musicals exist at all. As Peter Bradshaw wrote for The Guardian, quote, "The characters are forever dancing and smiling and bursting into ABBA songs like Stepford Cyborgs when you flip the secret panel behind their heads and press the life-affirming behavior button." End quote. And okay, funny line, but like, what is the objection here? Can you imagine being a film critic, reviewing and analyzing films is your job, and yet you are annoyed that in a movie musical, the characters spontaneously burst into songs? Call me crazy, but I thought that's the whole point. Asking why people keep singing in a movie musical is like asking why detectives keep investigating murders in a film noir. This really reminds me, and I know I'm going slightly off topic here, but stay with me, the reception the fantasy Regency era series Bridgerton got when the first season premiered, and it's definitely not without its flaws, but I vividly remember a well-known male YouTuber who usually reviews superhero blockbusters or prestige TV complaining that Bridgerton is boring and nothing happens in it because all the characters do is go from one ball to another. And I'm sorry, my guy, but the ballroom is the social arena where Regency courtship, class negotiation, gossip, and reputation unfold. The dance floor is the battlefield, like read an Austen novel, for crying out loud. Okay, complaint number 3. Shimming and shrieking. So, even though the plot of Mamma Mia revolves around Sophie's quest to find her father and therefore herself, the heart of this film is really the friendship between Donna, Tanya, and Rosie, who, by the way, are never pitted against each other. They never compete over a man, it's all about their undying love and support for one another. And what's interesting is that each of them represents the archetype of middle-aged women we're often taught to fear becoming. Donna is an unmarried single mother, Tanya a free-time divorcee, and Rosie a lifelong single woman. And yet, instead of serving as cautionary tales, the film celebrates them because it refuses to reduce these women to their marital status and age. Yes, Donna is a single mother, but she's also a business owner, and she's warm and hardworking and wise, but the film allows her to be equally messy, to make mistakes, to be loud, to have a wild past without punishing her for it, and to occasionally day drink with her friends. What a life. Tanya is a serial divorcee, yet she's sexy and desired and financially independent, and if she wants to get plastic surgery or wear a tutu skirt as a dress, she can. And Rosie is a lone wolf, like she calls herself, but she's also a successful celebrity chef, and she's witty, unruly, funny, and so full of life, like who doesn't like dancing on a table? But many reviewers had a very different take on that friend group than I did, and you see that in the loaded and really mean-spirited language they used. Actually, what struck me is how often these reviewers spend more time evaluating these actresses' bodies, age, and appearance than the film itself. They described Donna, Tanya, and Rosie as, quote, ancient, sleazy over-the-hill grandma crones, 3 older women prancing around in tight spandex, or bitchy drunken gorgons who constantly mag and squirm, shimmy and shriek, scamper and writhe, slug ouzo and flounce and bounce like bad drag queens from open mic cabaret night at the Des Moines Holiday Inn Airport Lounge, bounce about like deranged kangaroos, or like hyperactive toddlers. Meryl Streep gives the worst performance of her career, makes a fool of herself, and her character is buffoonish, or the W word. I also found a review where Julie Walters is described as gnomish, Christine Baranski as a chronic camera hog, and Meryl Streep as, quote, looking a decade older than her 59 years. We're not done yet. Mike Sage's horrific review of the film for Pretty Bra this week has been conveniently scrapped from the website, but, nothing ever dies on the internet. So, quote, straight men should avoid Mamma Mia like a feminist plague. Julie Walters is cloying and muggy as an obnoxious single writer who seems desperate to seduce any supporting characters not destined for the leads. Christine Baranski isn't much better. She looks like a horse and is somehow a 3-time divorcee who's had a boatload of plastic surgery to make her look 75 instead of 103.
They don't write many things about 3 middle-aged women in the central roles, and then putting Mr. Darcy and James Bond to the side. I mean, just the cheek of that. It's fabulous.
Tell him, Meryl. Notice that these aren't criticisms of the performances or whether these actresses fail to disappear into their roles or not. And of course, you technically can dislike Meryl Streep's acting or singing or Philadelphia Lloyd's directing style, but there is a big difference between saying that, for example, a performance is too exaggerated for the scene, and describing the side of middle-aged women moving their bodies joyously as inherently repellent. And several of these reviewers cross that line so casually, they barely seem to notice it. Unfortunately, the underlying message here is clear. Women of a certain age should act quote-unquote appropriately for their age. They should be graceful, docile, dignified, and basically remain invisible. They are not allowed to be loud and loosey-goosey, and they certainly are not allowed to wear spandex and be the center of attention. And naturally, I should add that the male and also middle-aged actors didn't get the same treatment. The reviewers often wrote that Pierce Brosnan was miscast and tore his singing apart, but no one ever insulted or mocked his appearance. How typical. Speaking about Pierce Brosnan, it is absolutely true that he's not a trained vocalist, and compared to Amanda Seyfried or Meryl Streep, it shows. But first of all, his cast members fearlessly defended his singing.
He's perfect for it, actually. I can't ever see anyone else
Dancing, singing.
Oh, yeah. Got a voice like Bruce Springsteen.
And emotionally, I think Brosnan gives exactly the performance his character Sam needs because he's not singing to impress us. He's no longer playing the suave, elegant James Bond who never cries and never makes himself look ridiculous. When he sings S.O.S. as Sam, I believe him. I completely believe that this man has regretted leaving Donna for 20 years, and I say this as someone with a degree in musicology. I also think that him not being the strongest singer makes you, as the viewer, feel less intimidated to sing along while watching the film. Wouldn't you agree?
I got a platinum album for that.
So long story short, don't ever take Rotten Tomatoes scores too seriously, or any reviews for that matter, but also, do you remember the Barbenheimer? Well, in 2008, Mamma Mia premiered in the same week as Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, so they had their own Dark Mama, the Mia Night. I'll work on that, and unsurprisingly to no one, many reviewers who bashed Mamma Mia for being an embarrassing film about middle-aged women making fools of themselves absolutely loved The Dark Knight. I'm very glad that Mamma Mia goes through this cultural renaissance and that so many creators make essays about this film, defending it as a piece of feminist media or a campy classic, but I rarely see them ask, what about Mamma Mia makes it such a comforting film? Bad day at work or at school? Let's watch Mamma Mia. Bad weather? Mamma Mia. Sick in bed with the seasonal flu? Mamma Mia. Which is funny because, on a surface level, Mamma Mia looks nothing like what we usually think of as a cozy film. There are no chunky sweaters or rainy autumn afternoons. Everyone is gorgeously tanned and glowy, the sun is blinding, and the water sparkles. I already feel like I'm on a beach vacation. But I think the coziness of Mamma Mia comes from mostly its relationships. It's a world where nobody gets punished for feeling things or being vulnerable. Nobody is the butt of the joke, and instead the characters support one another through community and friendship. I think in any other film, this whole conundrum of who Sophie's father is would easily become a masculine competition. Who is the real dad? Who gets to win? But in Mamma Mia, Sam, Harry, and Bill mostly just like each other. They openly talk about what they're feeling. They all have a lovely boat trip with Sophie. And again, in any other film, a scene with 3 middle-aged men and a young woman dressed in a swimsuit could quickly turn sour. But here, no one makes Sophie uncomfortable. In fact, all dads become very attached to her and eventually decide that actually they're all perfectly happy being 1/3 of a father each. It's just so nice to watch. Same with Donna, Tanya, and Rosie. I love the scene when Donna is down and overwhelmed upon seeing the 3 men for the first time in 20 years, and her Francis response is essentially, alright, let's put on some feather boas and sing Chiquitita.
Chiquitita?
At her until she feels better, and somehow she does. And I think that's the ultimate fantasy of Mamma Mia for me. Not necessarily the mood of the beautiful and sunny Greek island, although obviously give me the Greek island. It's the feeling that you can be an absolute emotional mess and there will always be someone nearby willing to sit with you in it. Or dance to ABBA with you. Whichever works. And there is nothing embarrassing about it.